James, give us a little background of kind of where you've been, what you've been up to, and how you got into the industry and ended up here at Bedens.
So I started out in the industry in high school. I was lucky enough to grow up 15 minutes from Pine Valley in South Jersey. And from there,
I've heard of that place.
From there, I went to Delaware Valley College, which is now university, and studied under Dr. Lindy, who's I still keep in contact with, especially now that I'm back in New Jersey, and he's only about 40 minutes from here to campus.
How was that experience at Del Val?
I really enjoyed it there. Small classes, really close-knit group of guys that I went to school with, and we hung out throughout the whole time there, and we still keep in contact. So I really enjoyed my experience there.
So the big looming question for me coming here to visit you in Jersey is, what is going on with full service gas pumps? What's that all about?
I'm not really too sure. I just kind of grew up around it, never really questioned it. It's nice in the winter.
It was unique coming up on the turnpike from the Philly area, and a massive line waiting to get gas. I couldn't figure it out, and then remembered, oh, that's right, we're full service gas here. I can't get out and pump it myself. It's nuts. But so anyways, you got one heck of a pedigree, kind of, as you mentioned. You've been to some fantastic clubs. Talk about some of your bosses and some of the things you've learned from other superintendents on your way up.
So I definitely would put my work ethic towards Pine Valley and working for Rick Christian. He did a lot of fun things, and if you needed to get a new tool or something, he'd be like, oh, let's race, and you'd race back to the carts and work really hard over there. And then from there, going to the Creek Club for a summer and working for Adam Wilkins, I learned a lot of my hand watering skills there. And then
good Buckeye right there.
Yeah, yep, ATI. And then really refined them, all of my techniques for hand watering and learning when I was at Marion. So I started as an intern at Marion. During the U.S. Open, I was a spray technician, and then moved on from there. I became senior assistant, and that's when my fiance went out to Ohio, and I followed her out and worked at Muirfield Village under Chad.
What are maybe some of the other components you mentioned? Maybe the work ethic that you picked up from Pine Valley. What are maybe some of the other characteristics that you've picked up from some of those bosses?
So I might be a little bit crazy like Schaefer. No. There I really learned a lot about disease. We had a really good course setup guy there, Dave Petfield, and he was really about teaching interns, as Matt was. So whenever there was disease in the rough or disease on, even the little tiniest speckle, we'd bring all the interns down there, and Matt and Dave would show us, what we were looking at, and we would talk about what we recently sprayed and maybe why it didn't control it, or maybe the fact that we didn't spray at all.
Yep.
So we could really learn what diseases were cured by which fungicides. And, there's not, at a place like Marion, you would think that, there would be no disease there, but, we would get pythium in the rough when it was 75 degrees out at night and there'd be a thunderstorm. So we really learned a lot about that, and then it would be like, okay, well, let's go put this out, and then you would see the next day, hey, it was still 75 last night, but we don't have any more mycelium. So you would figure out what cures what, and it was a really good spot to learn. We also learned a lot about employee retention and how to treat employees, and going and creating intern packets and getting interns to come want to work there. So, we learned a lot about hiring while I was there as well. It was a very structured place. When you showed up as an intern, you got a packet that said, hey, this is every job that we do here, and this is how you do it. And that was made by the old assistants there. So, the assistants that have come up through there really put that place to what it is and made it nice and structured. So I really like that aspect of my time at Marion.
What you mentioned, kind of employees and structure and all that. Labor right now seems to be one of the biggest issues out there. How are you handling it here at Bedens? Is it an issue? How are you, encouraging or creating culture, taking over here at Bedens?
So I can put that to my days at Muirfield, and how, you know, you have to be able to go towards what the employees are looking for. If you have employees that are applying and they're in high school, I don't just say, hey, no, we can't hire you because you can't work in the mornings. It's, hey, can you come in from 3:30 to 6:30 and can you work every Saturday? Or can you come in from 3:30 to 6:30 and work every other weekend? And, you know, sometimes it works out, and you know, these guys can then pay for gas, and you know, they get a little bit of spending money, and it doesn't really affect us much because we get to get more, you know, we get to get a lot done. If I bring people in from 3:30 to 6:30 and they're filling fairway divots, you know, they don't need a lot of supervision, and they're able to help us repair the golf course from the recent floods that we had, or, you know, just do the miscellaneous jobs that you wouldn't be able to get to with just your regular 40-hour guys.
So you're a rookie superintendent. You're kind of getting through your first year. How did you know you were ready to take that step?
I guess they always say, you know, you're never ready, right? So, you know, it's
like having kids. There's never the right time.
That's what people have correlated it to. You know, I think after the renovation at Muirfield, and, you know, how we were able to really work together as a team and make sure that everything got done, you know, I knew that it was the next step. You know, coming here, it's not like, I didn't think at the time we were going to dive into a full-on renovation, you know, and then we had a storm that wiped out 2 greens, and we started rebuilding those. So, you know, I think all the skills that I've accumulated throughout my 13 years in the industry have really helped me be confident and know that it was time.
Taking over for, you know, someone that's been here for a little while, how have you been able to get the staff to buy into what you're trying to accomplish here?
You know, I think through proper means of communication, and then getting out here, and there's a lot of times where I get out here and I get my hands dirty, and, you know, and I work alongside with the staff. I think that's really built credibility. So I think through credibility, you know, is the best way to do that.
What's maybe some of the other learning curves? I mean, were you able to be a part of the budgeting process in previous jobs, so you're kind of prepared for that? I mean, there's certainly a lot of stuff that's new when you're the guy. You know, how have you been able to tackle that here in your first year?
So luckily, my previous employers were really good about teaching us about, you know, budgeting skills, and especially like working with Chad. You know, when we went to go make purchases, Chad would always involve the superintendent and assistants, and he would make sure that, you know, we knew what was going on. You know, he made sure that we knew what things cost, so when we got our you know, next step, that we'd be able to do it efficiently and effectively.
What do you remember about the interview process? What was that experience like?
It's kind of funny because I remember all of my green committee and in the interview process and all of the questions that they asked me, and I remember who asked me the easy questions, who asked me the hard questions, and, you know, it's kind of starting to fill in with their personalities.
Yeah.
And it's really great, and, you know, we can kind of joke around about it, and they're all really good people, so they're fun to be around. So our green committee meetings, you know, we get a lot done, and they're productive, but they're also done in a fun manner. So it makes it, you know, a great place to work. You know, you don't dread the green committee meetings because, you know, they're somewhat upbeat and fun.
That's not that way everywhere. You know, I know a lot of guys that go into 4-hour greens committee meetings, and they're just dreading them, being painful, and that's good that you can have a group that you get along with.
Yeah, luckily they all have full-time jobs and they're very busy. So,
yeah.
You know, they don't want to spend too much time talking to me.
You mentioned the 2 holes that were kind of taken out by the storm, and then Andrew Green coming in and working on those. You know, you have a master plan in place too now, right? What's that process been like, working with Andrew and LeBar and the construction team?
So Andrew Green came in and did a master plan at Bedens Brook in 2015. And not much has been done since, for, you know, whatever reasons, I'm not really sure. But his contract expired, so you know, we kept in contact since then. Before, you know, Andrew's such a great guy. Before I took this job, I called him and I said, hey, you know, if I were to take this job, are you still working with Bedens Brook? And, you know, we talked about that aspect of it, and, you know, it came down to part of the reason that I'm here is because that, you know, there is room for growth and they want to do a master plan, and, you know, there's work to be done here. I get bored kind of easily, so I had to make sure I had something to keep me busy. So, you know, as soon as the holes flooded and we knew that we had 2 greens that had to get rebuilt, we already had Andrew in place. We already had Michael Kuhn and Associates from out near you.
Yeah,
so,
up in
you know,
Michigan.
up in Michigan, and you know, he was a contact of mine through Chad, and you know, who did the irrigation system at Muirfield, and his son worked for us when I was the superintendent. He was an intern, so, you know, I had close contacts there. So he was already hired to help design a pump house that we're planning on installing this winter. And then LeBar was actually supposed to come here and level some tees for us, not until October 13th, but they moved some stuff around, and they were able to get in early September. It's just kind of a shame because the storm happened 2 days before my wedding, so, you know, I was, you know, preparing to go to the wedding, and then you know, the storms happened, and we, on the way down to the wedding, I was securing materials like sod and sand for the greens, and flipping the greens into USGA spec, and but Rich LeBar really helped out with that and was able to get the bid out fast to us, and it was really a good process.
So what Emily think about you having to kind of work right around your wedding day? How'd that go over?
Well, I think when I was supposed to be off on the Thursday, because that was our rehearsal dinner wedding on Friday, and when I, you know, first of all, our house got hit pretty hard too, and we didn't have a car. And when I told her one of my assistants was coming to pick me up to take me to the club, I think she thought I was going to miss the rehearsal. So luckily our golf pro, Paul, he lent us his Jeep Wrangler for the wedding, which is perfect because he has the club logo on the back as his tire cover.
Nice.
So it was great. You know, and getting away for 2 days, you know, for the wedding after a mess like that was you know, it was helpful, and our membership was great by it. You know, they said go, you know, get out of here.
Yeah, you said they pretty much told you either need to leave or find another job, right? I mean, is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, because, you know, they've gotten to know me pretty well over the past 9 months, so they know that, you know, I care about this place and want it to be good.
Taking a step backward, yeah, tell us about the property. I mean, it's I'm blown away with this golf course.
So it's a really great club, small membership. Before 2020, they were only getting about 8,000 rounds a year, and now we're up to 10 to 12. So over the past 2 years, so, you know, real small property with a great membership, and there's no tee times here. So you know, members just come out and they meet. A lot of times groups are made on the driving range. You know, you come in, you know, expecting to play as a single, and you know, see one of your friends on the driving range, and you team up together and go out. It's a 1965 Dick Wilson design, so I think this was one of the last courses that he ever designed. You know, they want fast, firm conditions out here, so what I've realized is by that they mean they want fast fairways, so that way the ball rolls a little bit further, and then they have a shorter shot into the green, but then they want receptive greens. So, you know, this spring we really got the fairways. I think we made some people nervous. They were pretty dry.
Yeah.
You know, we cut back on the water big time.
You know, you say they want firm fast. Is there data associated with it on your end? What kind of stuff do you collect? How does that correlate into the surface that you're trying to provide to your membership?
So I do take the stimp readings every day, and I really do that to make sure I don't get the greens too fast. We have some really undulated greens, and sometimes if I mow and roll with the you know, right conditions or the wrong conditions, you know, the greens will get a little bit too quick on me. You know, they'll get up to 11 and a half, 11 and 3/4, and at that, I would say at 11 and 3/4, 50% of our greens, they're just not fair when we try to put pins in certain locations. We had member last week, and I dropped a ball in the back of the 9th green, and it was 100 yards away from the pin when it finished rolling. So, you know, we had to move the pin on that one quite a few times till we found a good spot. So that's in my next year. I really want to rebuild. There's 4 greens, and
we would soften the undulations and make them to today's green speeds. In 1965 when they built the golf course, I'm sure that they were, fun pin placements, but not with today's mowing heights.
One of the podcasts I was listening to on my drive out here, I was listening to it's called The Talking Greenkeeper, was talking about being a superintendent to manage surfaces versus growing grass and managing a plant. What's your maybe take on that philosophy of providing a playing surface versus growing event greens and fairways and stuff like that?
It's definitely a fine mixture of both. I'd say I'm 75% about playability and 25% about the turf. It's definitely a fine line. I should probably be more 50-50, but in July, if it's going to be 100 degrees here, which does happen in central Jersey, I'm not going to roll, and maybe the greens are only rolling a 9.5 or a 10 that day, and that's fine. There's a fine line, and you just have to make sure that you don't cross it.
Yeah, where is that line? You see it when you get it.
I know.
Yeah.
I've seen that line before.
So you're coming from Muirfield Village, which hosts obviously the Memorial every year, and providing tournament conditions for the best players in the world. What's the difference in preparing a golf course for the Memorial every year to providing a high-end private club experience for your membership? What's the difference? What are you doing? Maybe that's a unique preparing for a tournament versus here.
I'd say that the big difference is if we're having member guests here, it's maybe like a month of preparation. You're a month out from member guests, and you're like, okay, well, over the next 4 weeks, we have to do a little bit extra each week to get to where we need to be, for that tournament and to really impress our members and our guests. When it's Muirfield Village and you're preparing for the Memorial, it's a year-round process. If you try to cram that into even a 6-month process, it's not going to be as good as it could be. So it's a year-round planning. As soon as the Memorial ends, you're already trying to figure out who's going to come back and volunteer the following year. You're already thinking about what could do better. Chad did an excellent job by the week after the Memorial, while it's still fresh in our minds, it's like, all right, let's go do a SWOT analysis. What were our strengths, what were our weaknesses, and so on. So it's still fresh in our head. And then we had that for when we started our December 1st meetings, and our weekly meetings for the Memorial 6 months out. Turf conditions is not something, if you go into the fall with, poor turf conditions there, they're not going to recover in time because you have that cold winter in Ohio, and then it's just right into the spring. I mean, there was times out there where you're like, are our trees even going to leaf out by the time that the tournament started? So you don't have that time like you do here with, regular just member guests that are, in June or, July, August.
What are maybe some of the tournament components that you are implementing here?
It's just some little stuff, like fresh cups, fresh sticks, making sure that everything that is attention to detail, is there. Night work, throwing in a couple night shifts, fill in the driving range tee divots so that way the next day you don't have to do it first thing in the morning, or, let's say that you don't have time to mow fairways because instead of 8 a.m. tee times like the Memorial, you're having 8:30 shotguns. So, maybe in the mornings you have to do drag, and then in the evenings you get the fresh cut out there. So that way it looks good. But that's all something that, here you have to prepare your staff for, It's not fair to spring that on your staff, the day of. So, I put it on the golf calendar, and, the staff gets a calendar, and then they know exactly, what days and what time of year that they have to do evening maintenance.
You're kind of young, getting started in your career here. What are you hoping to accomplish in your career?
I think in my career, I want to surround myself with good people, and really try to help some employees. I think it's really hard to get interns right now. And we've already got one of our full-time staff members to enroll at Rutgers, and he's going to Rutgers right now. He's actually in the 10-week program. And that's not something that he knew was available or really had the drive to go after. Great person, and now next year we have an intern at Bedens Brook when he comes back and he interns here. So even though it is really hard to get interns to come to a place like this, I think we can grow our own program. I think we have a lot of high school kids. I hired like 12 to 15 high school kids this year that worked alternate shifts and worked throughout the summer months. All athletes, all really good employees come from the area, and I could see one or two of those guys go into turf school one day. So I think we can grow the industry in different ways, and one of those is getting high school kids and getting your current staff to be moved on and go to school and study turf.
I'm using this for the Ohio Superintendent Network and Superintendent Network. I built this using network not like as an ABC, like we're a channel, that kind of a network. I created the network based on the network of people. You've got a great network of people. How do you utilize those contacts, that network of people that you've those friends that you've met along the way, your bosses, your fellow assistants and all that? How important are those relationships? How important is that network for you as a golf course superintendent in this industry, which is obviously quite demanding? And how important are those people to you?
I don't think you can touch on that enough. So every single day out here, we always talk about how we get into the industry because you do something different every day. And if you have a contact that's done something that you're about to do, why not pick up the phone, call them and ask them and say, what would you do differently? How did you go about this? How did you fix this issue with, this project? So we all work a lot of hours, and if you can cut down on some of your, time spent on a project, it's time that you can spend with your family. So, by asking questions and not being scared to pick up the phone and asking a colleague, how they handled something, you could save yourself some time and maybe the club some money.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me out here. It's great to see you. Great to see you being successful at a beautiful club out here. Excited to go play it this afternoon with you. And awesome. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Bryson.
Appreciate your time.